We continue on through preview season with Utah. Welcome into Armchair Analysis. Hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend to this point. It is Sunday, June 15th, 2025. And honestly, I think this is one of those first teams where we start to really talk about a contender in their conference. We've had a bunch of teams so far that we're trying to figure out how they're going to bounce back, how they're going to work off of what was a down year, or even in some cases a bad year, or just below the expectation. Utah is one of those teams that's coming off of a year below expectation that could be a legitimate contender going forward. So we're going to go through that. We'll talk about everything that there is to know about this Utah team going forward. If you haven't already, make sure you go back and check out the other videos. It's all in a playlist here on the channel. 2025 season previews. We've got everything from the start, where we began with Florida State, all the way to today with Utah in a playlist, so you don't have to worry about missing any of them. Also, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Helps you find these videos a little bit quicker, especially when your team comes up, because if they haven't been done yet, they will be in the future. We're going through every single Power 5 team plus Notre Dame, so make sure you don't miss any of that. With all that said, let's talk about 2024 for Utah, because before we can talk about the present or the future even, let's talk about what we've already seen. And that was 2024. A team that went 5-7, 2-7 in Big 12 play, but they were hampered by injuries. This is a team really over the last 4 years that they have had no shortage of injuries or really devastating injuries or situations that put them kind of behind the eight ball on their own expectations. Last year was really no different, and this is a team that averaged 23.6 points per game, gave up 20.7 points per game defensively. Good for a top 25 defense, scoring defense. They were 102nd in scoring offense, and then they were negative 0.3 turnover margin per game, which is 85th in the country. This is a team that brings back everybody, though. Jason Beck comes back at offensive coordinator. Morgan Scaley comes back at defensive coordinator. Kyle Whittingham returns as a head coach, which there's plenty of rumors around that, but we're not here to focus on that. We're here to focus on the team in 2025. When you look at this roster, there's really a lot to love. I think that this is probably one of the more quiet but still talented rosters in college football. Now, offensively, the focus is the offensive line, because it's supposed to be one of the best in college football. I think I just had it outside of my top 10 offensive lines. The more I look at them, the more I look at what they're returning and what they were last year. They have the names, and they certainly have been good. And I expect a continuation of that, really. This is going to be another really, really good year up front for this team. As for who's behind that offensive line, it's going to be Devin Dampier at quarterback, and he's coming over from New Mexico. Why would anybody be high on somebody coming from New Mexico? Well, there's a lot of people that would be high on coming from New Mexico. We talked about Luke Weissong a little bit ago, which was Dampier's favorite target over for the Lobos last year under Bronco Mendenhall. Coming over here to take over the quarterback job, and this is not your typical quarterback at Utah. We haven't really seen a running quarterback like this with the talent of this in probably 7 or 8 years with this team. But really, I would say we could venture back to the late 2000s, 2007 to 2009, I think it was, with Brian Johnson, who was our quarterback. That's kind of what you're getting here. And if you remember those days, they were pretty good for Utah. That's kind of what you're getting with Devin Dampier, but a little bit faster, a little bit more versatile, and also has a really good arm still. And he's got some receivers to throw it to as well. We'll get to them in a minute. At running back, you got Wayshawn Parker and Nakari Rogers. Parker coming over from Washington State. Rogers, again, coming with Dampier from New Mexico. Sensing a pattern. At wide receiver, you got Ryan Davis from New Mexico. Otto Tia coming over from Utah State. And Creed Whitmore coming over from Mississippi State. Really love Creed Whitmore. I think he's going to be one of the more underrated pieces to this entire offense. Tight end, you got Dallin Bentley. This is a team that while it doesn't look like it on paper, because a lot of people are not going to recognize the names, a lot of people are going to just overlook this team. This is a team that can average over 25 points per game, and I would say even may venture closer to 30, the way they are expecting to look and the way they're trying to put things together this year. I'm as big a fan as I could be of this offense. I do not think they're perfect, and I think there's a lot of room to grow, and I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be able to kind of keep them contained and slow them down. This is not juggernaut offense, but this is really good and can work really well for this team in 2025. As for the defense, they return 9 of 11 starters from 2024. Their leaders from last year, you had Lander Barton with 72 tackles. Logan Fano comes back leader in sacks, returning 2.5, which is a number that I think is going to improve this year. He's got a lot more time on the field coming his way. Tackles for loss, Jonathan Hall had 9 last year. He's the leader returning again. And then you got Lander Barton, and then you got Smith Snowden. Sorry, I didn't write that very well. Lander Barton and Smith Snowden both had 2 interceptions apiece last season. And then multiple players forced 1 fumble, but there was only, I think, like 4 players that forced 1 fumble overall, let alone whether they're returning or not. It's a solid foundation defensively, and Morgan Scaley's a guy that there's not many more that I trust as a defensive coordinator to really have a team sorted out and ready to go. A similar story. Injuries were the big deal last year, and they're going to have to find a way to, again, move forward and find the depth, and I think they've done a really good job of that. Part of that just comes from experience. The other part of that comes from the additions they made in the portal on the back end as well, trying to, again, load up on some depth and have some guys for the future. This is a team that 5-7 is a disappointment. Anything below a bowl game is a disappointment, and I would say anything below competing for conference championship would be considered a disappointment as well. However, this is not the lightest schedule in the world. They have a lot of things they got to work through. But as I always do, I have some thoughts that I write down, and I normally write a paragraph. This is what I had when I finished up with this team. This is a good roster and coaching staff, a team that knows each other and has one common goal in mind, and that's win a Big 12 championship. As it is for every team, but this is a team that has, again, that they have this consistency within the roster, this ability where they know each other, they've worked with each other before, and I think they have a really good foundation to, again, maybe achieve that. This is not the easiest schedule, though. Their road games are brutal, and we'll talk about that, especially in Big 12 play. They got some tough road games. But they don't get it any lighter at home either. Let's go ahead and talk about the schedule this year. So as it sits on your screen, they start the season off with a road game against UCLA, which is going to be interesting because it's 2 teams that are kind of ushering in a new era at quarterback. But there's one team that I think has a lot more of a foundation. I think the defense is going to be what carries this Utah team in that game. We'll talk a little more about that when we go to the preview. They get a weird road game against Wyoming. Wyoming's not great, and I don't think going to Laramie's that's tough as of today. But it is an interesting spot because you get that game on the road right before you host Texas Tech in Rice-Eccles Stadium. It's just a scheduling spot where it's like, okay, maybe we overlook this game going on the road and maybe we get caught off guard. But then you get that Texas Tech game and sandwich in between road trips. You go to Laramie again the week before. And then you go to Morgantown to face West Virginia the week after. Not going to be easy in its own right. A bye week before you play Arizona State. Again, that's a home game. Thankfully, you get a little bit of rest and you'll be ready for that. You go on the road to BYU. 2 not lighter games, but 2 very winnable games at home. Colorado and Cincinnati back-to-back before another bye week. You come out of it on the road in Waco, then you get K-State at home, and then you finish on the road in Lawrence, Kansas against the Jayhawks. This is a schedule that sits right now, 7.5 over-under. Odds to win the Big 12 are plus 600, national championship odds plus 12,000. realistically, none of these numbers are bad. I don't really foresee that being an issue. How do you navigate this schedule? How do you work through things? And especially the amount of rumors that are behind this season, with Kyle Whittingham rumored to be stepping away, which has been the rumor for years now, and I'm not buying into it until we see it. But it's still a thought in your mind, because at the same time, the players are going to know before anybody else does. And how does that affect the dynamic of the season? How does that affect everything? We will see. So with that, let's go ahead and preview. You start again on the road against UCLA, and this is going to be a game where I think we talk about defense traveling all the time, and that's going to have to be the case here. It's a defense that knows each other, has worked together for a long time, and they're going to go on the road, and I think they're going to get the win over UCLA. A tough, hard-fought game, but I just think that they're going to be a little bit more prepared, again, defensively, than UCLA will be. It's going to help them out a lot, and I think that Nico Yamaliava still got some learning to do with this new system over there in Pasadena. You get Cal Poly to follow that up. I think that's going to be a win. Move on to the road against Wyoming. I think it's going to be a win, but this is going to be one of those sleepy games. Like I said, where it's positioned in the schedule makes it tough. It's not a tough game. It's just, again, weird spot. Nonetheless, a good win. You start 3-0. Texas Tech at home, I think you're going to lose. I think just where it's positioned in the schedule, you're coming off of a road trip. You're getting ready to go on another road trip. I think it's just in a really interesting position, and I think that this is where we're going to kind of find out, hey, Texas Tech is legit, whereas Utah has some work to do, and I just realized that says UCF at the top. I can't believe it. Okay. Crisis averted. Anyways, so we leave out, again, it is where we start to figure out that Texas Tech is a legitimate team, a team that's going to contend for a Big 12 championship, and where we find out what Utah really is, because they could lose this game close, they could lose it by a lot. It's really tough to say, especially, again, given position. I don't think it's going to be an indictment of Utah. I think it's just going to be, hey, Texas Tech is pretty good. You move on, you go on the road and face West Virginia. I think they get the win there. It's going to be a tough road environment. I think a lot of people don't realize just what changes are made with this West Virginia program. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go and compete for a Big 12 championship, because I don't believe that to be true at all. What I do believe is that this is going to be a different era, a new era, where they no longer are weak at the line of scrimmage. They're no longer this team that tries to do things that they're not good at. So one thing that I think will really be a noticeable difference is Neil Brown was very, I would say, almost hell-bent on trying to make things work even when they weren't, even in games where it wasn't happening. He lacked the willingness to adjust. That's going to change a lot here this season. I think that Rich Rodriguez is going to have this team in a really good position. I just think that there's too much new to the program to be over the top excited. Nonetheless, I think it's going to be a closer game than people may expect here, but I do think Utah gets the win. Then I'll close it out with a win over Arizona State at home. I think that this game, coming out of a bye week, is a really big deal. And getting to face the defending Big 12 champs, a team that you probably felt like came out of nowhere, and now you kind of feel like you might be coming out of nowhere. You're putting yourself in a good spot at 2-1 in the conference going into the second half of the year, where you've got 6 games that are manageable and even winnable going forward. I think if you come out of here 5-1 through the first half, there's a lot to be excited for in the second half, and I don't think that it means anything. I don't think there's any reason to believe that you can't come out of here at 10-2, maybe even 11-1. We'll see. But there is definitely room for failure. This BYU game, I'm saying this the whole time because my predictions can change, especially based on what happens with Jake Retzloff. Now, this game being in Provo is a big deal because I think that whoever hosts this game is the team that's going to win. This is a heated rivalry between Utah and BYU, and I just think that there's some added motivation here. Obviously, this game being in Provo is why I'm taking BYU to win. But again, that could change. If Jake Resloff is not a part of this team for whatever reason, then this game becomes a lot more interesting, and even more so, I would favor Utah heavily to win that game if that were the case. You get Colorado at home, a good game to bounce back with. You'll get the win there. You also beat Cincinnati, another really good team. I think that these are two teams that are going to get lost in the shuffle because they're not as good as they have been. Cincinnati's improving, but they're still not as good as the best of the conference. Colorado kind of going to come back down to earth, sit right in that probably bowl eligible range, and that would be about the best they can do. But I think Utah gets two solid wins there at home. You go on the road to face Baylor in Waco, and I think that you're going to lose. Now, you guys have heard me plenty talk about Sawyer Robertson and this entire Baylor team. I don't need to continue to do that until we get to them. But I'm taking Baylor to win that game. I'm going to take K-State as well. The K-State defense is the biggest thing here. This is going to be a all-out defensive affair here. And I buy K-State a little more. I like their offense a little more. I think they're more consistent offensively, or they build more consistent offensively. Taking those two straight losses, but you'll close it out on the road in Lawrence with a win over the Jayhawks to go 8-4 and 5-4 in conference. I know that doesn't sound lovely. That doesn't sound perfect if you're a Utah fan, but it does hit the over. It doesn't put you in Big 12 championship contention, and it doesn't put you in national championship contention. But you could, again, go 9-3, 6-3 here with a win somewhere where I don't have it. And again, that 8-4, I feel like I'm almost predicting the floor of this team rather than predicting the kind of middle ground that I normally do. But I feel like there's a lot still to learn about these guys, especially how they're going to work together and what this team's going to look like. So let me know what you think if you're a Utah fan. Of course, as I say every time, you know your team better than I do in most cases. Please let me know who I missed out on, who I did not talk about that I should have, because I'm sure there's plenty of names that unfortunately do not make the fold the way I do these previews to try to get them out timely. But this team, again, I think they're good, and I think there's a lot of potential for more than 8. I think there's that potential to be somewhere in the 10 to 11 range. But again, let me know what you think. Let me know what you predict for Utah. Tomorrow we got Wisconsin. Really excited, and then we close out this round with this round of conferences with the SEC again with Oklahoma, and I'm pumped to talk about Oklahoma. That's probably one of my favorite teams this low early to maybe make the playoffs. So there's a lot of good conversation yet to come. Make sure you, again, like, subscribe if you've gotten this far in the video. Make sure you tune in again tomorrow, Wisconsin, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.